I often work with our crew, who are a great bunch. They're hard working, but also up for a laugh, and part of what makes me get out of bed each day. It's really quiet first thing, but there's always a lot to clean. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess and there's rubbish scattered around. I clean the footpath, the street furniture, the bins, and remove graffiti off public buildings. I like it. It keeps me busy. It feels pretty satisfying to know that at the end of each day I've made Sydney Road look a little better for everyone who lives, works and visits here. Cleaner streets make it a nicer place to shop too, and that helps our local traders. And as everyone starts their day and the shop's open, I get to meet some lovely community members and their dogs. Everyone knows Sydney Road is legendary. We should all show it some love.
Libraries are the heart of our community. They connect us, inspire us, and support lifelong learning.
Whether it's borrowing books, thank you,
learning how to use computers,
getting creative in our makerspaces,
or simply having a welcoming space to belong, the library is the place to be.
We're always evolving our spaces, collections and services to meet the diverse needs of our wonderful community.
I love my library. It's a safe place to be, it's inclusive. I always find something new that interests me. It's not just a place for books anymore.
A library has something for people of all ages.
And is a place of discovery, events and learning at every stage of life.
It's your library. Visit us today.
Did you know that Merri-bek is home to a diverse community where more than 95 languages are spoken? That's why we offer information on council services in your language. If you've received a rates notice that you don't understand, would like to request a new bin, or have another question for council, we can help. We have free in-person and phone interpreters who can help you communicate with staff at council in your language. To request an interpreter, simply call 92401111 and ask one of our customer service staff to organize one for you. You can also request an interpreter at one of our customer service centers, libraries, or maternal and child health centers. At Merri-bek, we're proud of our diverse community and we want to make sure everyone can access our services. For more information about our language services, please visit our website.
Wheel Sisters came about after some women in Fawkner approached us, wanting to learn to ride bikes and also find other women from their own community to ride with, including women who might ride in hijab or an abaya. One of the things that never gets old when you teach people to ride bikes is the sheer thrill they get when they realise they can do it.
The really special thing about teaching both the women in Fawkner and the women here is just the cultural barriers that they face every day, and coming from a place where they never thought they'd ever be able to ride a bike. A lot of them do reflect that it's been their lifelong dream to ride a bike, but they never thought they'd be able to do it. So it's just that extra level of being able to gift that to somebody.
I got really excited when I heard about this program. I'm almost 40 and I've never ridden a bike. I tried when I was little. Yeah, I still can't believe that I can ride, and yeah, it's been a dream and I'm so glad that it came true.
It was excellent, very special experience for me because it was my childhood wish to learn how to ride a bike.
Yeah, my experience was great because I've never ridden the bike before. So it was like truly empowering for me. And I thought I can't ever learn, but Kaz was really patient and encouraging.
At this age, it's a really courageous thing to learn new things. And any age, anyone can do it if they want it. And willingness is the most important things, and that's I prove myself.
I think it's good health-wise as well as environmentally. It gives me some physical activity to incorporate into my daily routine. I think it was great to find other people like me who have recently learned to ride, and we are all well connected now. Yeah, after so many years, I'm very grateful to have this opportunity and have Cass and Faith with us, and they've been amazing, amazing teachers. Everybody should give it a go and see for themselves how easy it is. Because I never thought I could, and I'm able to do it now.
Merri-bek as an organisation has a culture of pushing for better outcomes for the environment and really strong on sustainability. Part of that is adapting our infrastructure in the face of climate change. To do that, we need to test things. We need to work together with others in the industry to look at better and different ways of doing things. And that's what this trial is all about. This project has been a collaboration between Melbourne Water, Merri-bek City Council, the University of Melbourne, and then we've been working with Porous Lane, who have been coming up with new permeable pavement technologies which have been adapted for this permeable curb and channel.
Porous Lane is a unique material developed out of research at the University of Melbourne. It's comprised of approximately 50% recycled tyre, all sourced from Australia, and in this case the tyres were sourced from here in Victoria. It's a unique material in that it has a very high permeability. It infiltrates water at approximately 8 times the guideline that we use, international guideline, and so it's really effective at getting water off the road.
So this
Good evening, councillors, members of the gallery, and to our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Nat Abood, and I am the Mayor of Merri-bek City Council and the chairperson of tonight's council meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the meeting this evening. We are meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people, and we wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways, and we would also like to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as to all First Nations communities who significantly contribute to life of this city. This council meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to council's website and YouTube. This recording will also be available as video on demand. Attendees are advised that they will be recorded during the meeting. A reminder that as councillors, we will act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which will support the principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. In the event of an emergency or disruption, we may be required to take action to ensure the safety of attendees. For members of the gallery and councillors attending in person, please follow the directions issued by council staff and security officers. And before we do begin, I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that even though the group of us don't necessarily all agree on everything, we do so in a respectful way, and we actually appreciate the efforts that each of us are making and can make a joke. And I hope that you've witnessed that with us today, and I hope that you can disagree in the same nature if you find that you are disagreeing with each other. And I really thank you in advance for your understanding and cooperation. I'd like to introduce the other councillors in attendance tonight. To my right is Councillor Helen Davidson, the Deputy Mayor.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton. Councillor Liz Irvin.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Dr Jay Iwasaki.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Chris Miles.
Evening.
To my left, Councillor Adam Pulford.
Hi, everyone.
Councillor Alice Svensson.
Good evening.
Councillor Katarine Theodosis.
Hi, everyone.
and Councillor Oscar Yildiz.
Good evening.
I'd like to also just introduce the Acting Chief Executive Officer, Sue Vucevic, and the senior management team. And I'd like to thank Sue for your time and support. Surprise! I'd like to thank you, Sue, for your support over the last few months acting in the role of CEO. This is your last meeting. Someone ate all the chocolates that someone else bought, but thank you for this chocolate. Maybe I'll just give you this back. Thanks, very kind. And I'd like to, the senior management team, I'd like to also acknowledge. Everyone around here is been acting in each other's roles, and I think it's really good for the organisation for us all to understand what everybody's been up to, and look forward to Monday when the new CEO begins. I also would like to note an apology which has been received from Councillor Helen Politis, and send all of our best wishes to Councillor Politis. And I'll move on now to disclosures and conflicts of interest. So, councillors, do you have any conflicts of interest to declare? No. Great. So what we can do is move on to the confirmation of the minutes of previous meetings. So could I please have a motion for the confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on the 13th of May 2026? Councillor Davidson and Councillor Iwasaki to second. Anything to say? No. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. So now that we've confirmed the minutes, we can move on to acknowledgements and other matters. There's a provision of a total of 10 minutes for councillors to acknowledge and recognise the achievements of local individuals and organisations and raise matters considered important to council that are not already listed in the meeting agenda. So councillors, do you have any acknowledgements or other matters you'd like to raise? Councillor Theodosis?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to formally advise Council and the community that I have been pre-selected as the Labor candidate for the seat of Essendon for the upcoming state election in November. I've notified the Chief Executive Officer, and once my nomination is formally lodged with the Electoral Commission, I will apply for a leave of absence from Council.
Great, thank you. Other councillors who'd like to speak? Councillor Bolton?
Well, just a few acknowledgements of activities I've been involved in over the last period. Firstly, I'd like to make a big shout out to the council workers who are trying to win fair pay. And wish you every success. So on to some other issues. I was engaged in a meeting which the Mayor was also present at with Friends of John Faulkner College, which is a group of local residents, local parents in Faulkner who are trying to work to support and build up John Faulkner College to help make it a school of choice for people in the local area. And we met with the principal. We also met with the local MP, Kathleen Matthews-Ward, and we talked about various areas where council could collaborate with the school to help build up the school, including the possibility of rejuvenating unused soccer pitch at the back of the school, which could be used both for the community and the school, but also better links between the school and the library and the rest of that particular area. I also wanted to make mention of the fact that we had Ballot Maroop Open Day towards the end of May, and this is the site of a former Aboriginal school which was forcibly closed down against the wishes of the community in 2012. But over a period of time of the First Nations community and supporters campaigning for a period of time, we stopped the Education Department selling it off, and it is now there is eventually, it's taken bloody years, the government has agreed to hand over the title to the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, and this would be a really major step because hardly any land has been handed back in Victoria. I also wanted to mention that the Faulkner Neighbourhood House is running some workshops called Faulkner Forward, How to Have Your Say, because there's a lot of people in the community, either from multicultural communities or people who've grown up in Australia all their lives, who don't really know how to advocate to council, to state government, or when private business just tramples over their rights. And so this is a 2-day workshop, or you can go on either day, and people can contact Faulkner Community House, or Faulkner Neighbourhood House as it's called now, about that event. And there's also another event in Faulkner this coming Saturday, Environment Day, an Environment Day event for multicultural communities. I mean, that's an open invitation to everybody, starting at 11 a.m. in the Faulkner Sports Hall.
Thanks, Councillor Bolton. I just will also add that the Coburg Lions had a really big win against Carlton at the Vicky Cleary Day, which happened quite recently, that a few of us attended. And also Sue Vucevic and I attended and laid a wreath on behalf of Merri-bek City Council, the Victorian Aboriginal Remembrance Service at the Shrine of Remembrance recently, which felt like an important thing to do, and draw attention to another event, which is at Richards Reserve this Sunday from 10 a.m, which is, it was a community budget idea known fondly as Lizards with Bikes, but it will be a community planting day and sausage sizzle from 10 o'clock at Richards Reserve if anyone is interested. And also that there is a movie night fundraiser at the Mellinston Progress Hall from 2:30 on Sunday as well, to raise money for a family that are that needs some help. Are there any other councillors who would like to mention anything? So then we can move now on to petitions, and I have a petition which is included in the agenda, which is 5.1, petition oppose Merri-bek Council's fortnightly rubbish pickup plan, and I believe that Rebecca Hu and Anita Ciliato are here tonight in person to present the petition. Come on in, and you've got 2 minutes to...
Hello.
So you've got 2 minutes to talk to the petition. Just make sure that there's a green button on that microphone there.
Mayor, councillors, we, the residents, have 2 petitions opposing this proposal for fortnightly bin pickups. We've submitted 750 signatures and the other sits above 2,600. While the original petition organiser is battling with health issues, these numbers speak volumes. Because your report was made halfway before trial completion, you might not actually know that the proposal does work against your own environmental goals. Your trial residents admit to having to double bag waste and buy deodorizers to manage foul odours. That is more plastic to landfill, more consumerism, which is very bad for our planet. The retiring of smaller bins, production of new larger bins, and increasing general waste capacity weakens the intention to sort waste correctly. There is also conflict of interest, as we've heard. Some with power to vote tonight also intend to run for state government. The rationale now is beyond nappies, beyond foul smells, vermin, the difficulties faced by elderly, disabled, and residents in multi-unit developments. It also affects all the local council workers present here today. There is lack of transparency, disingenuous consultation, inconsistencies in data, conflict of interest, and the list goes on. Look, we're not actually here to oppose environmental progress. We can be aligned with compassion for both residents and the environment. The petition gave residents a voice. Here's what some said. If the goal is to reduce landfill, the focus should be on expanding recycling, waste reduction initiatives, and not reducing collection services. Bins near me shared and overflowing before the week ends. Rubbish ends up in green waste and recycling bins. It attracts rats. There will be more contaminated recycling if fortnightly happens, and you can't beat lived experience. These are not perceived problems, they're real ones. Hobson Bay adopted fortnightly and then reverted. Brimbank and Whitehorse are keeping it weekly. Let us keep weekly collection, invest in green bin, education bin liners, and expand the container deposit scheme, which our mayor herself supports. Good outcomes come from trust in education, not through a militant style of governance. We'll be watching to see which councillors are listening, so please vote against or defer this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Are there any councillors that have a conflict of interest to disclose? So then, are there any councillors who would like to briefly speak to the petition? Oh, hello, Councillor Miles. Yeah, if you want to, or you don't have to, you can just pass the motion if you like. Okay, so we need a mover for the motion in relation to the petition, to accept the petition. Councillor Miles, I know you wanted to, and Councillor Davidson. All those in favour? I declare that carried. Councillor Yildiz, did you abstain from voting or you? Oh, right. Okay, thanks. Then there is another petition that was received after the agenda was published, which is Shaftesbury Street, Coburg traffic, which has been received with 61 signatures requesting that Council include Shaftesbury Street, Coburg in this year's budget, the 26-27 budget, to progress next steps in ensuring traffic volumes will be reduced on the street. And I believe Caitlin Phillips is here. Oh, hi, Caitlin. So you've got 2 minutes to address the meeting.
Thank you. So I'll just start. My daughter was too shy to speak, but she did want me to say, Merri-bek Council, can you help us? So
Can you tell her that we said thanks for coming? Just tell her later.
Yeah, I'll tell her later. She's
Great.
a bit overwhelmed.
That's fine.
I'm representing the residents of Shaftesbury Street to give this petition to Council to include our street in this year's budget to progress to next steps to ensuring traffic volumes will be reduced on our street. I'd like to thank Council for the opportunity to speak during the budget consultations. Shaftesbury Street traffic has grown to 2,966 cars per day driving down the street, noting that Barrow Street was chosen for a trial closure at 1,243 cars. Our concerns and issues include safety for residents, especially children, attending local primary and secondary schools, and one resident mentioned and wrote to Council about a near miss with a child in a car, and we really don't want a tragedy. We have abusive drivers, and I think I spoke to Council about the rather concerning verbal attack that one resident experienced, and this is just an example of the abuse that can come when we try and ask people to slow down on the street. The street between Reynard Street and Munro is just too narrow for the volume of traffic, which leads to frustration and the abuse, like we've mentioned. Google Maps has turned it into a rat run of monumental proportions, and it's just getting too much. There's difficulty getting in and out of driveways and parking on our streets, damage to vehicles, sideswiping and mirrors lost. The examples we've given are just a snapshot, but it is just a constant stream of traffic, and it is so draining, and this is why I'm here today representing residents. Our petition has 61 signatures from 33 houses. Sorry, I just had to add a couple because I got an extra couple of signatures. And we won't give up, but we're being clear with Council that we do ask for action on this in this year's budget to reduce volumes. At 3,000 cars a day, it is justified and required now, especially since action was taken on Barrow Street at a significantly lower volume.
Thank you, Caitlin. Councillors, does anyone have a conflict of interest? No. Is there anyone that would like to briefly speak to the petition? In which case I'll ask for a motion to accept the petition. Councillor Irvin and Councillor Miles. I know that everyone sort of had their hands up then, but I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Declare that carried.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Do I
you
give
so
it
much.
to you or?
Yeah,
We've
or
emailed
to
it through.
Sue, and she can pass it along. Yep.
No worries, thanks. Thank you.
And then, councillors, do you have any petitions that you would like to table on behalf of residents? No. Okay, so we'll move on to questions of council and community statements. The time provided for questions and statements is 30 minutes, and the time can be extended by another 30 minutes by resolution of council. If we do not have time to answer your question tonight, it will be taken on notice and responded to in writing. Priority will be given to questions and statements that relate to matters listed on the agenda, and if time allows, questions about other items other than those listed on the agenda will be considered as well. A maximum of 2 questions or statements in any combination is allowed per person, and questions or statements that relate to a matter listed on the agenda will be dealt with first. If you've registered to ask a question, when I invite you, you or your representative must state your name and suburb and then ask the question with a preamble or background for up to 3 minutes. And if you've registered to make a statement, when I invite you, you or your representative must state your name and suburb and then make your statement without taking longer than 3 minutes. If you've submitted a second question or indicated that you have a second statement to make, it may, at my discretion, be deferred until all other persons who have submitted questions have asked their first question, or not be asked if time does not permit. A maximum of 3 questions will be heard on any one subject, and then we will proceed to the next topic. If time allows, we will return to the previous topic. I will either answer the question on behalf of council or invite another councillor to answer. Alternatively, I will ask the Chief Executive Officer to provide a response or refer it to another council officer. There will be no response or discussion in relation to community statements. As detailed in the governance rules, questions or statements may be disallowed if they are defamatory, indecent, abusive, offensive, irrelevant, trivial or objectionable in language or substance. If a response to your question is provided at tonight's meeting, there will be no further formal response. However, council will action any commitments made in answering the question. So I think we've received a total of 11 questions and statements prior to the meeting. And the commencement time is 6:57. And the first questions I have relate to item 7.1, curbside waste reform fortnightly rubbish. And the first person on the list is in person, Pauline Carmichael. If you would like to come in and take your 3 minutes to make your statement. What did I say? Something random. I never know what time it is. Hi, Pauline.
Sorry, I'm going to have to read it. Start?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor, Councillors and Executives. My name is Pauline from Pascoe and I'm making a statement on item 7.1. Tonight I want to address the arguments likely to be made in support of fortnightly rubbish collection. Councillors may argue this change has to happen now because it has been years in the making, because Merri-bek cannot flounder in the mid-50s percentile for waste diversion, and because landfill capacity is under pressure. I urge councillors to think about if it is the right time to vote on such a massive change to a core council service. Council's own waste workers are here tonight because of unresolved industrial action. Residents in the north have just experienced what reduced collection feels like in practice. The officer report incorrectly states that Council resolved on 10 April 2019 to move to alternate fortnightly general waste and recycling collections. No such resolution on fortnightly rubbish was made, so there is no obligation on councillors to treat this as an inevitable next step of an earlier decision. Yes, Council has been working towards this for years, but plans should respond to changing conditions and community confidence, not be rushed through because they were once labelled the end state. The recent Southern Collection Area tender was deliberately structured to allow for either fortnightly or weekly collection. There is no procurement deadline forcing this decision tonight. The wider waste system is unstable. Other councils are pushing back on elements of the 4 bins framework. The state government has not finalised household waste standards. There is growing opposition to incineration and offshore waste processing. This is the wrong time to lock in a major local service cut while the whole system is still shifting. Finally, a state election is just months away with several councillors running. The community deserves confidence that a decision of this scale is being made on evidence and public interest alone, not in the shadow of broader political pressures. Councillors may point to the trial as proof this model works, but the trial had only run for 6 months when it was assessed, and the trial material itself says longer monitoring is needed. The reported increase in food waste diversion to FOGO is also hard to rely on because the trial area started from a much higher baseline than the municipal average, 76% higher in fact. Councillors may say Council has listened to feedback. The biggest barrier raised for years is no compostable FOGO bags, and that will not be resolved until at least April 27. The community has also had only 6 days to read and respond to a materially different proposal to what was trialled before tonight. Councillors may say the community supports this change. Council's own engagement says otherwise. It found strong negative sentiment, 77%. Councillors may say concessions will protect households that struggle. Concessions show many households cannot manage without extra capacity or special treatment. A concession will add 33% more capacity. How will the proposed weekly service for apartment blocks work? There are no details. Councillors may argue the financial case stacks up. Where is the full financial and environmental picture? Finally, councillors may point to other councils as evidence this will work in Merri-bek. Different density, demographics, service settings and supports. If you read the detail on the government website, CDS and garden waste are also major contributing factors to their success.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you.
Thanks for preparing that. Thank you. The next person is Ian Mack. Ian? And I believe you have a question, Ian. Are you coming in? Ian Mack? Hello, Ian.
I was going to bring some chocolates in for you because I got some out there. We'll have a chat afterwards, sir.
We'll be here for a while. You can come back.
Okay. My name is Ian Mack. I'm a resident of that sunny part of North Coburg that we like to call Merlinston. I am here tonight as a representative of the Anglican parish of Wilwarrook. And I posed a question before you which boils down to when. As I understand it, community consultation started initially in about 2012, and it seems incontestably that overall the financial prudence and environmental sustainability of change in this direction is inevitable. I sympathise and understand the concerns that people have. Change is never something that we love to have occur. We might pretend that we like change, but people as a general rule are very change reluctant. I'm sure that amongst the measures that have been considered are adequate mechanisms for those people who are in a position where they cannot accommodate these changes. And as I understand it, there has been consideration of those circumstances for people. Fundamentally, we're talking about one of the big three of council: roads, rates and rubbish. So as I passed a pothole on the way here, I thought to myself, if we can cut costs, maybe we can fill a few more potholes. The challenge that we have is that the economic cycle generates so much waste. And I know that is beyond the level of council to consider, but I do encourage council to continue and indeed further endeavours to look at how we can, as a community, minimise waste. So my question again is, having deferred consideration of this time after time, when? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ian. I'll now move to item 7.2, but I suspect I'll be able to come back to 7.1. So I have one question from Raf McDonald regarding 7.2, which is the Central Coburg Updated Framework Plan. and cite A1 expressions of interest process. Hi, Raf.
Hello, Mayor. Hello, councillors. Thanks for taking my question. I'm from Coburg. My name's Raf. I'm here on behalf of the Schoolhouse Studios Board. Schoolhouse has established itself as an integral part of the Coburg community, welcoming more than 500 people each week as both a working studio complex and a community space. We activate the site, we provide safety for the community, we're engaged, people come to our events all times of night and day, and we enrich the area in ways that have been unimaginable for that precinct. We're excited by the possibilities that Coburg Library and surrounding development will provide to Coburg's diverse community. However, with construction set to commence next year, Schoolhouse is being displaced by the council, with no equivalent or alternative community space proposed until the library opens in 2029. I'm here to ask councillors and Mayor, will council commit to finding Schoolhouse Studios an equivalent space to mitigate the impact of this development on Coburg's community?
Thanks, Raf. I think that the responsible... Oh, did you want to stay in? Don't go! We want you here.
Yay.
I think that Penny Winslade's got an answer for you, but I will briefly say on behalf of the whole council that I'm sure I'm speaking for everyone, that we really, really value what you're doing over there, and that in fact Coles is displacing you because of the situation with that building. But we're Penny can probably talk to it better, but we're absolutely talking about it and worrying about it, and trying to work out what next. So yeah, it's not a hard no. Yeah, but I'll ask the director to answer on behalf of the council.
Thank you, Mayor, through you, and thanks, Raf. Thanks, Raf, very much for your question. And look, it's good to see you again, and it's good to be having dialogue. I'd sort of reiterate what the Mayor has said, that the organisation really values Schoolhouse Studios, and we would love to see you continue to thrive. Obviously, the rental model that you've had with Coles has been on an interim basis. We don't have another supermarket. We don't have another building like that. But we're really keen, as we've said in our meetings, to help you in every way we can, whether that's helping you to find other premises with other owners, or whether that's working out what might be possible within council's own facilities as well. So we're not walking away. We want to see you survive. Thanks.
Thank you. Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
The next item that I have a question for is 7.3 Places for People Plan 2026. And Alicia, I believe that you're coming in with a statement. Hi, Alicia. Alicia, can you just make sure your microphone is on? Yeah, feel free to start again.
It's not.
Yeah.
So I'll start again?
Yes, please.
So thank you for accepting my question, my statement. Dear Madam Mayor and councillors, I have looked at the Council Places for People 2026. While I know I have told council before, I just remind you that as well as being active in our community, I am a long-term disabled person. Going all the way back to 1988, when my accident occurred on the 19th of August and I died 3 times on the way to the hospital in the ambulance. I live with constant pain. Permanent deafness in one ear that is sadly getting worse in my good ear, plus I have a permanent serious acquired brain injury. So I've spent a lot of time with disabled people. We get told that we'll be shown the proper respect that we deserve whilst we wait for the actions to occur. Just look at how buses and trams still do not have real disabled access. And this is years after we were promised such accessibility. For your Places for People 2026 plan to be achieved, the community needs to know the key metrics to measure outcomes and that accessibility is evident. I am exhausted of Council implementing a lot of consultations but not a lot of implementation. Or that Council has already made up their mind so that consultation is just a facade. This is how I feel that the Hoskin Reserve was handled. For the Places for People Plan 2026, 10 years is a long time frame for things to get lost in and actions to be maintained with differing councillors over the years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alicia.
Do you want me to stand or I can go?
No, you can go.
Beg your pardon?
You can go if you like.
Right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Andy.
And the next item is in relation to Notice of Motion 8.1 Glenroy Pascoe Road Activity Centre Community Safety and Revitalisation. And I believe Andrea Bunting is in the gallery, convener of Walk on Merri-bek, with 2 questions. Hi, Andrea.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors and officers. I'll try and keep it to 3 minutes, even though I've got 2 questions, hey? No. Andrea Bunting from Brunswick, convener of Walk on Merri-bek. Thank you to Council for this agenda item. We've long been concerned about pedestrian safety around the Glenroy Pascoe Road Activity Centre. So I have 2 questions. In September 2023, we worked with Councillor Monica Hart on a motion which included advocacy on extending the times of the 40 kilometres per hour speed limit on Pascoe Road for the shopping strip. And 1 year ago, the government did extend the times to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m, 7 days a week. So thank you, Council, for your work on that. But the motion included another item. That was that Council reviews the adequacy of street lighting on this strip, in particular the pedestrian crossing near Post Office Place. We noted the requirement that pedestrian-operated signals shall be lit, but there was no street lighting at the crossing, the nearest street light being about 30 metres away. So could you please advise what was the outcome of the review of the street lighting at that pedestrian crossing? The second question relates to the intersection of Belair Avenue and Pascoe Road. This intersection is particularly hazardous for pedestrians, with 6 pedestrians being injured in the last 5 years at that T intersection. We have written to the Manager of Transport at Merri-bek and Councillor Helen Davidson last year. This T intersection was selected as one for a zebra crossing, and it was earlier listed on the Council's transport projects as pending approval by the Department of Transport and Planning, but the listing has been reviewed. In 2024, we were advised by the Manager of Transport that funding was being sought for zebra or wombat crossings in activity centres through the Safe Local Roads and Streets program. However, it is not clear whether the Belair Avenue, Pascoe Road T intersection is being funded. My question is, can Council please update us on plans to improve pedestrian safety at that Belair Avenue T intersection?
Thank you, Andrea. I'm going to ask the responsible director, Penny Winside, Director of Place and Environment, if she might have an answer for you.
Thanks, Mayor, through you, and thanks very much, Andrea, for your questions. Just on the Pascoe Road lighting one from 2023,
Sorry, I've got a problematic throat and it's just done its thing on me. In actioning the NOM in 2023, our staff wrote to DTP. It's a state road, and so the lighting is actually a state responsibility. So we sought the state to undertake a review of the lighting in 2023. Our own review at the time confirmed it complied with Council's lighting policy. In receiving your question today, we've gone back to see what has happened in the response from DTP, and we cannot find one. So it's possible there is one, the staff member who would know if it's not in records is just away this week. So we'll come back to you and let you know. And if we haven't had a response, we'll pick that up again and pursue it again. So that's the lighting question. And then just in terms of the pedestrian crossing at Bel Air Avenue and Pascoe Vale Road, we continue to advocate for safety improvements in Glenroy, including concerns about the pedestrian signals in that location. So we have sought funding from the state, and at this time we still haven't been successful in having that funding granted. So we'll continue to advocate for funding, and right now in terms of works that council is undertaking, the crossing point isn't being upgraded, but works are being progressed on the approach on Bel Air Avenue, on the approach to Pascoe Vale Road. So that includes trees and garden beds in the road space that would improve pedestrian safety and amenity on the street. Those works are going to happen in the coming months, and there'll be further improvements in the precinct that will be considered as we develop Council's road safety plan over the coming financial year. So that particular project hasn't been successful. We're continuing to advocate for funding, but there are other things in train.
Thanks, Penny, and thanks, Andrea.
Thank you.
So I'll go now back to the agenda-related questions, and I believe we're going to hear from Maggie Cowling, who we have online, who has a statement to make. Sometimes this takes a minute. Yeah, sure. So we'll try and get Maggie sorted, but we'll, in the meantime, we'll go to the next question, which is Anita Ciliato, who's here in person to make a statement. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
That's good. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Anita Ciliato. I'm a resident at Pascoe Vale. I'm here to speak about the fortnightly bin collections and hoping that this decision can be deferred or perhaps rejected on this night. I'm really hoping that the council could consider a new and inspiring, innovative way to actually approach this particular issue. Rubbish collection is actually a core service for us all. And as you represent ratepayers, it's really important that we get this right. I know there are many arguments for and against, but my argument is, why not do something different? Someone mentioned change. Let's change and do something where we actually support residents and work together. Let's bring people who are for and against together so that we can find a way to make this waste issue something we can look at. We are a very special group of residents in Merri-bek. We have various cultural backgrounds, we have various skill sets, and I'm sure that we're all smart enough as a group to work together to resolve this issue. Why not look at alternative approaches? How about opt in for fortnightly collections instead? If we're opting in, then we know we can get a good database of who actually wants to participate. But also it'll save the council a lot of money, because you don't have to roll out all these extra bigger bins that everyone's going to get if you do go with the fortnightly collection. So for me, you're not actually resolving the issue, you're making it worse, because people are going to get larger bins, there's going to be more illegal dumping, so I feel like there's a good cost saving that you could have. And then at least we can look at kind of moving it in over a period of time. What I've discovered, there are many people that do not want to go with this new change, not because they don't want to make a difference. It's just that, they're not really aware of how we can actually better manage our waste. Why not go for a massive school campaign, educating children, getting children excited, bringing home stickers to put on their bins and encouraging their families to actually take action. I feel that's a much more effective approach than actually trying to just force people to try and put things in bins and cause illegal dumping. Why not also do a Merri-bek waste community and business campaign, reaching out to businesses so that we can look at ways to reduce the amount of, for example, coffee cups, having that sort of strategy there. Even a Merri-bek waste management community group. Bring us all together. Bring us together so we can sit down and work out a way that we can resolve this issue. Let's be a different council. Let's do things that bring us together rather than divide us. I feel like there's an opportunity here for residents to really be surprised. Someone mentioned change. Let's make a change. Let's do something that actually is really within the rights and the beliefs of all residents, bringing us together to make this the wonderful area that we need to live in. I think also we've got the introduction of the 24-hour curfew at the same time. This is going to put more stress on residents and also elderly people who are unable to lift larger bins. So I feel like there's a little bit of inequality in this decision. So I'm just asking the council to please consider looking at options. I'm definitely for managing waste, but what can we do as a group to really make a significant difference for our community? Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Anita. Even though you did have a lot of questions in that statement, I'm just going to treat it as a statement, but thank you for your time. This is gone. Do we have Maggie? Because Pauline is here, can ask her question. Pauline, maybe you could come in and speak for Maggie.
Hello. Hello, my name's Pauline Galvin and I've got a message from Maggie Cowling, who is the convener of the Climate Action Merri-bek and a resident of Coburg North. Thank you for the opportunity to speak regarding fortnightly rubbish collection. Thank you to the petitioners who have spoken about their concerns, which help us all understand what the needs and the issues are. At Climate Action Merri-bek, we share the petitioners' desire to find a way that works for everyone to divert as much waste from landfill as we can. As the council report notes, the benefits to all of us are environmental and financial. Climate Action Merri-bek members have noticed a strong interest in solutions that we posted online, and we applaud the council officer's solution-based report. The report's option 1 shows council has been listening to the needs and concerns of residents due to their particular circumstances. For these cases, they have suggested some practical and compassionate exemptions to the standard fortnightly introduction, including bigger bins, maintaining weekly collections for larger apartment buildings, pensioner concessions, additional ad hoc collections, and where necessary due to household size or special events, and capacity for a case-by-case response in exceptional circumstances. This is how we can each help each other and achieve the targets for diverting waste from landfill. A third of Victoria's councils have already made this conversion and they're smashing their landfill diversion targets. In addition to the report's recommendations, perhaps as part of the implementation process, council could look into maintaining a permanent community outreach officer to ensure householders are well informed about how to use their bins. This might involve an app such as Whittlesea and other council use, telling people what to put in which bin and when to put it out. We could also be investigating nappy recycling services. City of Greater Shepparton offers a free nappy recycling service. Disposable nappies are collected and recycled into kitty litter. And non-disposable nappy washing services and concessions for their use. Nappies contribute 13.5% of landfill. It is a topic worth exploring and we're all likely to need absorbent hygiene products at some point in our lives. As the report mentions, reticence to use the weekly FOGO bins is in part due to a misunderstanding about whether or not compostable bags or paper bags are acceptable. Some people don't want to put food waste directly into their bins or don't have room in the fridge or freezer to store it until they're ready and want a form of bag to contain leaky food scraps. The lack of really clear communication on this point is due to a long wait for the state government standards and complexity with the current FOGO contract. At this point, we can at least reassure people that they can line the bottom of their FOGO bins with paper toweling if they don't have grass clippings, weeds, etc. to do this job. Again, an outreach role would help with this. After many years of examining the transition to fortnightly rubbish collection, including the issue of FOGO bins to every household in 2023, this is a good time to introduce it with all the compassion and understanding that this report shows. Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline, and thank you to Maggie as well for preparing the statement. The next speaker is, actually I probably should get an extension of time. Councillor Miles and Councillor Bolton, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried. Stephen Shembry, if you would like to come and ask your question. Oh, sorry, make your statement. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, how are you going?
I'm well, thanks.
Mayor, councillors, thank you for letting me talk. It's on. Can you hear me out there? Yeah, they can. I'm here to talk about the fortnightly rubbish collection. Now, some of you here have already made your mind up which way you're going to vote. Some of you haven't, and some of you are undecided. It's probably the undecided ones that I'm speaking to at the moment. Now, one of the things that hasn't really been touched on is the amount of vermin that are going to proliferate once this gets into action, because people are going to just chuck anything in any bin, and if they don't have enough bin space, they're going to get a plastic garbage bag and put it outside there and hope it gets taken. Now, birds and other vermin will attack these plastic bags. It'll end up floating down in the rainstorms, blocking our drains, and it won't be good. So I'm hoping that we think about it a little bit more. I noticed that one of the councillors isn't here today. So is it right that we make such an important decision that's going to affect the whole community without all the councillors here?
I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think
Why?
it's appropriate to reflect on. Just keep to your points about the
Well,
rubbish,
that
please.
is part of my point.
Please, Stephen, because we all have personal situations that prevent us from doing.
But can't we make the decision when everyone is sitting?
Just finish your statement if that's okay.
Oh, well, that's basically the whole statement. I just thought I'd bring the last bit up. But
thank you
I
so
think
much.
it's important that a decision to be made that affects everyone in Merri-bek
Yes.
should be made by every councillor in Merri-bek.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Great. I now ask Marco De Lorenzis to come into the chamber and ask his question. Marco, if you're there. Marco? Okay, so then I'll move on to the questions that are not included in the agenda, and I do believe Jessie Rye is here in person to ask a question related to the staff industrial action. Jessie, if you want to come in. Hi, Jessie.
Hi, my name's Jessie Rye. I'm a Coburg resident. I'm a Merri-bek resident, proud ASU member, and essential services worker. Without the support of council workers, our community wouldn't be the beautiful place it is. For a council who represents a progressive community, you should be walking the talk of a fair pay for a job well done. Mayor and councillors, my question, one of many submitted by the ASU, is an invitation for you to join us to march with the striking ASU members, including many Merri-bek workers, next Wednesday, 17th of June, to demand that the state government fixes the funding crisis for local government. Mayor and councillors, Will you join me in standing up for your workers?
Thanks for the question, Jessie. It felt very important to me to allow you to represent the union staff from council to in the chamber to ask a question, and I know that you said there were several. But what I want to do is respect that some councillors might not want to make a personal commitment either way. I don't remember the last time I went to a rally, but I do remember always going to them until a point. And then I found them a bit terrifying and have stopped going. But it doesn't stop me in supporting the idea of people protesting and raising their voices and having their say. And I think from my perspective, I'll leave it at that regards to 17th of June. But if other councillors did want to speak, I would encourage them. And if they don't want to speak, I would also encourage that. Councillor Yildiz.
Can I just ask what the governance implications are? Are councillors allowed under the Act? I just want to confirm that.
Allowed to answer a question about attending a rally?
Yeah, are we allowed to go along?
Let me just find out for you. Yeah, that would be great, thank you. I'll just ask the Acting Director of Business Transformation, who's also the Queen of Governance at Merri-bek.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Yildiz will take that question on notice and get some advice to you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I just want you to be clear that there'd be a lot of councillors here that are in support. The Local Government Act, in fact, restricts us from getting involved in such matters. So if we are breaching that Local Government Act, that would restrict, for example, me to attend. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Bolton.
Well, firstly, I will definitely be attending the rally, but I also think there is the Local Government Act is being used in a very wide interpretation to muzzle councillors across the whole city of Melbourne or Victoria. And I think, councillors are not meant to interfere in the running of an organisation, but councillors absolutely can support the principle of fair wages for workers, including council employees, and the state government even has particular legislation. I mean, I think in the state government, politicians aren't meant to interfere in the running of negotiations of enterprise bargaining agreements and so forth. But there is some legislation which is about, I've forgotten the name of it now, about good employment, which sets down some guidelines. And I think if it's fair enough, the state government council can do that too. Councillors should be expressing solidarity. So anyway, that's my viewpoint, and different councillors will have different viewpoints, but I think there's nothing in the Local Government Act that prevents us going to rally or expressing support for workers, because it's not just council workers, it's workers everywhere who are struggling with the cost of living.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there other Councillor Svensson?
Regardless of what it says in the Act, I'm very happy to say that I will be there in support. I think every single worker deserves a living wage, including our exceptional council workers. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Iwasaki.
I'll do my best to attend, as I attended with Councillor Bolton at the last rally as a individual. I hope I'm not in trouble for that.
Councillor Theodosis.
Yes, hi. I would also love to attend. I'm a very proud union member. My parents were both very proud union members, and I'd love to come along and fight for fair wages.
Councillor Pulford.
It sounds like there's going to be a big Merri-bek contingent standing alongside you at the rally. I'm also a member of the ASU in my other job. But yeah, congratulations and see you at the rally.
Great. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, I've got another question, I think, from Romeo De Lorenzis. Romeo, would you like to come in? Romeo? Wherefore art thou, Romeo? Couldn't resist. Thanks, Romeo. 3 minutes.
There. Look, my question is in relation to Oyas Road. Recently, I've actually had a bit of an accident, no accident, but encounter with someone driving a bike. I mean, I ride a bike myself, and a lot of concern in relation to this. I think I'll give you a copy of my letter, my questions. Also, the photographs here showing why I've actually put a mark here, right? Now, my question was regarding requesting an urgent review of the design of the existing footpath, bike path, going east to west and west to east, regarding Old Street intersecting Oyas Street, Coburg, approaching from the east, including the corner of Lonsdale Street, corner Fraser Street, corner Burke Street, etc., and all the other streets as well, which intersect Oyas Road, Oyas Street. Now, as there's been a lot of near misses and threats, bullying and insults, not only to me, but a lot of other residents, and residents and local residents and ratepayers. Now, my question to you guys is, what evaluation was done by Council Safety Engineering regarding the viewing distances of the vehicle approaching Oyas Street from the east after stopping at the intersection, as the current viewing is reduced and obstructed by plants or buildings for both the bike riders and motor vehicles? The second question is, the council priority should be safety, peace and order. Why hasn't council installed signs warning bicycle riders on the footpath to slow down when approaching an intersection? Shouldn't safety owners and accountability be on both the motor vehicle drivers and bicycle riders? And, just to avoid it, that's all I'm asking. Just if you guys can do something about it.
I'll see if I can get an answer to the question for you, Romeo. And
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Penny Winslow again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, thanks. And thank you very much, Romeo, for your question. I don't know the answer specifically, and I will need to come back to you, and we can make contact with you and have a longer chat. But I can assure you that if we're doing major works, we will always have had all the engineering and transport approvals, the traffic assessments and the road safety audits, which are sort of the standards are set by the state government and approved by the state government. So we will have done those things. But I'll get someone to give you a call and have a chat and try and understand the details.
Thank you, Romeo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, so that concludes question time, because we've heard all the questions that we had intended to hear. So now we can move to item number 7, which is the council reports. And the first report we have to consider this evening is 7.1 Curbside Waste Reform Fortnightly Rubbish. I'm assuming no councillors have a conflict of interest to disclose. And then I'll just ask a councillor for a motion. Councillor Bolton? And I see that Councillor Irvin's happy to second your motion.
I'm happy to start the ball rolling, and I definitely agree that waste collection is a core council service. And I'm also recognise that it is very difficult to have a policy on something like waste collection for all of Merri-bek, because the households are so varied across Merri-bek in terms of size of households, in terms of what waste is generated. And I also recognise that residents as well as councils are a bit meat in the sandwich, because the decision about what waste is created is made much higher up by big corporations. And people like us are the ones who cop the consequences. And I was also very disappointed about the consultation recently about, what about the fortnightly waste after the conclusion of the trial.
Sorry, Councillor Bolton, can I just interrupt you for a sec, because
the motion that you're putting is slightly different to what was in the papers, and we just need to clarify.
Yeah, no, that's the council officer's motion. So I circulated, or actually Kirsten circulated an alternative resolution. Maybe it didn't go to governance. It's option 1 with amendments. Sorry.
Thanks, Councillor Bolton.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Anyway, the things I have considered, because I have been thinking backwards and forwards about this issue, including the possibility of deferral. So the things I've considered are large families, large households, which aren't necessarily all related to each other, people who foster several cats or pets at once, people with medical needs. But I've also given consideration to the fact that it's projected that Melbourne's landfill will run out between 2035 and 2040, and that you can't open up new landfill, or it'd be very difficult, because any community you dump a new landfill on is going to campaign like crazy against it. And also communities are mobilising against waste incinerators, which are highly toxic, and the one that's projected to Wallet, if it gets built, will affect us in Merri-bek, even though it might seem like it's a long way away. So I ended, and I am very aware, especially in Fawkner, the difficulties a lot of people are going to experience. But I have ended up coming down on the side of the landfill issue. And therefore, that's why I am supporting fortnightly waste collection, but with some amendments. So it's different to what the officers were put forward. So I'm wanting to see some additional concessions for people who will struggle with fortnightly waste collections. And that would include there's already a proposal, council already offers a concession for large households with 4 or more dependents. I'm wanting that extended for 4 large households where there's a number of adults living in a house, because these days a lot of people struggle with housing, and so adult children are moving back in with their parents. There also might be grandparents living there, or there might be a large share house. And also there's a question of people who foster a number of pets.
Councillor Bolton.
Oh, have I run out of time?
Yeah, we're at about 4 minutes. I suspect you probably have a chance to speak in reply.
Oh, there's one more thing I need to say.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll just say this very fast.
Yeah.
Is the council's proposal about fortnightly waste is predicated on people using the green bins. And my observation is a lot of people use the green bins, but there's a lot of people who don't because of the yuck factor if they don't have a garden. And I think there's a need for council to get proper data on the number of green bins that get emptied each week, why people don't use them, and work out ways of helping make it easier for people to use them. That's it.
Thanks, Councillor Bolton. I just want to also alert councillors to the fact that the motion that Councillor Bolton is speaking to was circulated at 3:50 p.m. in case you need to see a copy of the whole thing. Yeah, it's up there as well, but if you need to see it all in one piece, it was circulated as a document at 3:50 p.m. by Penny. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak as the seconder?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And thank you to the thousands of residents who have had their say on this matter over the years, because this is an initiative that has been in the works for a very long time. We've had goals around reducing waste to landfill going on decades now, and we first made the decision to shift to fortnightly waste in 2019. Landfill, as we all know, has huge costs for the environment and for nearby residents in terms of smell and pollution. Victoria is also facing a fast approaching cliff that will see us run out of landfill space between 2035 and 2039. And what happens when a resource gets more and more limited, in this case landfill space? It gets more and more expensive. Landfill levies have increased significantly over the last few years. In 2009, they were $9 a tonne. Now it's getting close to $180 a tonne. Over the next decade, as we continue to run out of space, we will see this landfill levy increase dramatically. We may be looking back fondly on $177 a tonne as we do now on $9 a tonne. This cost is paid directly by ratepayers in a waste charge that is separate to your rates. So as the waste levy increases, the cost of the whole community increases. This is inevitable and we have no control over it. So how does fortnightly waste solve this issue? To be honest, when we were first briefed about this at the very start of the term, I was a bit perplexed about the link. But it turns out that a significant proportion of waste in the red bin is actually food and organic material. This is waste that should be going in the green bin and being turned into compost, instead of being sent to landfill at great expense and taking up precious space. And when you collect the red bin fortnightly instead of weekly, it turns out that people are more likely to use the green bin correctly. We see this in other council areas. The 9 best performing councils in terms of their rates of recycling and composting collect the red bin fortnightly. Our own trial last year showed a 19% reduction in waste to landfill and nearly a doubling in the food waste diverted from red bins to green bins. Moving to fortnightly waste will save our community at least $16 million over 10 years. And with the rate the waste levy is increasing, this saving is likely to be a lot more. We know that this will be a challenge for some households, but we've made adjustments to the default bin size, the maximum bin size, and the eligibility criteria for concessions to make it easier for everyone. We will also work with households that still face challenges to help in any way we can. I'm supporting this alternative motion because of the changes to those concessions and the addition of further investigation into improving FOGO usage and things like nappy and incontinence aid recycling. Thank you.
Councillor Irvin. Is there a councillor that would like to speak against Councillor Bolton's motion? Other councillors in support?
I'm going to be speaking against. I obviously want weekly collections, so I'm still a bit confused with your amendment. So are you, sorry, through the chair, is Councillor Bolton saying that she wants to continue with the fortnightly bin collection? Is that what she's saying clearly in that? Because I'm still confused.
Hi, Councillor Yildiz. I've agreeing with the idea of fortnightly waste collection, but my motion pushes back the timeline a bit because I don't want to see, this implemented during industrial action. And I also want to try and get some other improvements. So I've got some amendments there. So I'm going with fortnightly, if that's my proposal, rather than weekly, but with some changes to try and make it better.
I'm allowed 3 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I just want to begin by acknowledging the work of council officers. I'm voting against this. The thousands of residents who participated in the trial and the many members of our community who took the time to engage in this issue, just over 3,500 members of a petition, that's a lot of people. I want to make my position very clear. So, yes, I support reducing waste to landfill. I definitely support increasing food and garden organics recovery. I support improving recycling action. But supporting these objectives does not automatically mean supporting every proposal that is put before us. Tonight we're not voting on whether reducing landfill is a good thing. We are voting on whether reducing the frequency of one of the most basic council services is the right way to achieve that outcome. For me, the answer is no. Waste collection is one of the most fundamental services local government provides. Residents might never attend a council meeting, they may never have read a council report, but every household in this municipality understands whether their rubbish is collected every week or not. When we reduce a core service, we have a responsibility to be absolutely certain that the change is practical, equitable and supported by the community. I'm not convinced that threshold has been met. What struck me most in reading this report is that many of the concerns raised by residents are acknowledged throughout the officer assessment itself. The report identifies, and further to your amendment, Councillor Bolton, smell, hygiene, pest storage limitations, apartment living, nappies, medical waste, pet waste and larger households. The report notes that larger households found fortnightly collection more difficult. The report notes that households with children in nappies were more likely to express negative sentiment. The report also notes concerns from apartment residents and people with limited space. They are not concerns invented by opponents of the proposal. They are concerns identified by the community and acknowledged within the report itself. The report also says that 77% of the survey respondents expressed negative sentiments towards the proposed change. Now, I appreciate that engagement exercises are not referendums, but I also appreciate that consultation is only one factor we must consider. But when such a significant majority of participants are expressing concern about a reduction in a core service, I believe that should give every councillor pause. I am also concerned by the growing list of exemptions, concessions and special arrangements that are being proposed. We are being asked to approve larger bins, expanded concessions, officer discretion for exceptional circumstances, special arrangements for apartment buildings, additional outreach programs and a range of implementation supports. I understand why those measures are being proposed, but to me, they raise an important question. If we need all of these exemptions and special arrangements to make the policy work, what does that tell us about the suitability of the standard service? In concluding, good public policy, Madam Mayor, good public policy should work for ordinary residents without requiring them to apply for exemptions. It should work for families, renters, older residents, people living with disability. It should work for apartment dwellers, and it should work for culturally diverse households with different living arrangements. A one-size-fits-all approach does not always work in a municipality like ours. I acknowledge the projected environmental benefits, I acknowledge the proposed financial savings, but I also believe the Council has a responsibility to maintain community confidence and ensure that essential services remain practical and accessible.
Thank you, Councillor Yildiz. Is there a councillor that would... Is there a councillor that would like to speak in support of Councillor Bolton's motion? Well, I will. I think from my perspective, well, this is my anecdote. Today I had a call from former councillor Dale Martin. So some of you will remember him. He finished up on council in 2020. And I said, hey, buddy, guess what we're voting on tonight? And he almost fell off his chair when I told him we were finally voting on moving to fortnightly pickups, because this has been in the pot for a very, very long time. Over time in this chamber, various council groups, makeups, have made commitments to reducing landfill lots of times. Since Dale was on council, we talked about reducing landfill. And we've also talked about the fact that we want to capture the food and green organic stream as a resource rather than allow it to be wasted in landfill. It's not rubbish. It's actually something that we can turn back into soil, and that has happened through Veolia, and it's been dumped on local gardens, including the Pentridge Garden just over here. So it's something that we can, it isn't rubbish. But also it means that when we do capture it, we reduce the landfill stream. The other thing that we've resolved to do in this chamber is not to send our landfill to incineration. And the incineration proposals, if you've read the media, I think there's a journalist in the gallery right now that has mentioned, or somebody has, that there's a proposal for a ring of incinerators around the Melbourne CBD, which is basically burning rubbish. Burning rubbish that produces chemicals that there is nowhere in Victoria to test for, that producing a third of the byproduct is something that is so toxic that in WA they bury it in basins that have had no groundwater for millions of years, because that bottom ash is no good for anything and it's super, super toxic. So we've resolved not to send our waste to incineration. as a councillor and as a mayor in this chamber, I've spoken to a submission at a state government inquiry about incinerators, and it seemed at the time that the people who were asking me were saying, tell us more reasons why we shouldn't be burning our rubbish. And part of reducing our waste stream is linked to this work of helping people to get better at capturing the food and green organics and treating our rubbish differently. There are side issues like what we do with the glass. Maybe we end up getting rid of the purple bins again and glass goes into container deposit schemes when they're extended. I think that the concessions that Councillor Yildiz mentioned are really important because we need to make sure that it works. And we can't, like has been mentioned, just throw over a one-size-fits-all scenario. We need to actually make sure that we're bringing everybody along with this work so that it works and we don't end up having to put an excessive amount of landfill into the tips so they end up being burnt. And I could bang on for days, but I probably would, so I'll just stop talking. But is there a councillor that would like to speak against? Councillor Miles?
Yeah, I'll just be quick because I don't want to back over stuff that Councillor Yildiz has already said. I feel that I was very close to this trial because the trial actually happened in my ward, and I spent a lot of time talking to the community who were actually going through the change. And what I generally found was single people live by themselves, couples will generally do fine with this. It won't be an issue for them. But the people who really seemed quite scared were, well, not scared is not the right word, were very cautious and very worried about this going forward, were people with really large families, people who are already struggling to get rid of the amount of nappies they have. They're actually taking their nappies outside of the trial zone to get rid of their nappies. I had people with medical issues. I won't go into too much detail because the person asked me not to, but there was a lot of issues that were really quite resonated with me about how much this will actually affect certain people in our community, and it wasn't, a lot of it was to do with the smell. I understand there's going to be stuff to take care of people with bigger bins and stuff like that, but the smell and the concerns and the embarrassment of their neighbours was a major concern for them. And one of the issues that I do have in the north, and so does Councillor Davidson and Councillor Bolton, is we do have a lot of dump rubbish, and the last thing I want to do is vote for anything that's going to cause more rubbish to end up in our parks, in our waterways, because I don't want any of our rubbish in our oceans ending up near a tortoise's stomach. Also, I've had people speak to me saying that they're actually embarrassed to have their friends over because of the amount of dump rubbish that's left on the nature strips near their houses. So I just can't support something that's going to make people's life harder in the very north of Merri-bek, who sometimes do feel like they're not listened to as much as other areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Is there a councillor who'd like to speak in support of Councillor Bolton's motion? Councillor Iwasaki.
Sure. We've had several good discussions here of compromise solutions, and I think that there are some good concessions that can assist with some of the issues that have been discussed. But by diverting waste from landfill, we're aiming to avoid those waste incinerators in our northern suburbs. We're also trying to account for the fact that we will be paying millions of dollars more if we don't find a solution. And this is one solution that has been adopted by many more councils than ours. We have seen the results from the trials that have shown that there's not an increase in dumped rubbish. That has not happened. And I guess what would be really helpful if, if it could be presented would be more solutions from councillors that are opposed to it, because we still need to manage the millions of dollars more in costs that will be being put on every ratepayer in Merri-bek. And if we do not change to fortnightly or find some solutions, there are residents who will be taking personal responsibility for their own rubbish and subsidizing those who do not. And that is, I think everyone understands it's not fair. So, there's been a lot of good work here. I think these amendments take into account a lot of ongoing issues and exceptions to what may fall through the cracks in what is, clearly a very difficult one-size-fits-all situation. So I will be supporting these changes in this a resolution by Councillor Bolton, and hopefully if other councillors have any other ideas or solutions, they'll put that forward.
Thank you, Councillor Osaki. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you. And thank you to the many residents who have contacted council on this issue through various forums, either directly, through Facebook pages, through telephone conversations. I've had a lot of in-depth conversation with many of you. And I support reducing waste to landfill, I support recycling, and I support FOGO. And I support responsible environmental policy. However, I don't support reducing a core service that many residents rely upon each week. So this debate is not about whether we care about the environment. We all do. The question before us is whether reducing the frequency of rubbish collection is the right solution for our community and our environment at this particular time, whether the community has generally been brought along on this journey. So over the recent months, I've received significant feedback from residents, particularly families, older residents, carers, and people living in larger households. The overwhelming concern I hear is not opposition to environmental reform, but it's a concern that council is reducing its core service while asking residents to accept that is somehow an improvement. Additionally, when we ask residents to accept a significant change, we owe them complete transparency, and I am concerned about the consultation process. For many residents, this proposal came down to a straightforward question. Do you support changing rubbish collection from weekly to fortnightly? As representatives, we should pay close attention when residents tell us they feel unheard. I represent people in Glenroy, Oak Park and Gowan Brae, many families with children, multi-generational households, culturally diverse households, renters and carers. In many homes, grandparents, parents and children live together under one roof. Those households generate more waste because more people live there. This model doesn't reflect the reality of how Merri-bek residents live, particularly in the north. While concessions are available, many residents are uncomfortable with the idea that they must apply for an exemption or prove special circumstances in order to receive significant rubbish capabilities. I don't believe residents should now justify their household circumstances to maintain a service that currently meets their needs. There's also genuine public health and amenity concerns. The report states that no significant increase in odours, contamination or dumping was identified during the trial. However, a 6-month trial isn't the same as a permanent municipal rollout. Many residents are concerned about what happens during those hot summer days when we have degrees of 35 to 40 degrees. For waste, pet waste, nappies, hygiene products and other residual waste that can remain in the bins for 2 weeks. The practical reality is that this can create unpleasant odours, attract vermin, insects and impact neighbourhood amenity. These concerns should not be diminished as simply resistance to change. They are legitimate concerns about public health and quality of life. And perhaps this is the most important point. Rubbish collection is not an optional extra. It's one of the most visible and fundamental services local government provides. Residents expect their rubbish to be collected reliably and regularly. It's a service that directly impacts public health, neighbourhood amenity and quality of life. Yes, we should continue to improve recycling outcomes, and yes, we should continue to strengthen FOGO participation, and yes, we should continue to educate and encourage behavioural change. And I think that's probably the most important point, that we should continue to do those things, but not with the stick approach. I don't believe that reducing the frequency of rubbish collection across Merri-bek is the right way to achieve those goals.
At 4 minutes, Councillor.
Oh, sorry. So for those reasons, I cannot support the notice of motion.
You were nearly there, sorry. Yeah. Thanks. A councillor in support of Councillor Bolton's motion like to speak? Councillor Bolton, would you like... Oh, did you want to speak? Yeah, sorry.
I'll just speak briefly because I think a lot of really important points have already been made. But I think it's really clear from everybody who's spoken today that we all agree that we need to do something about this crisis of landfill that we have, because that's really reinforcing 2 other significant crises we have. A crisis of cost of living, because as you've heard, the cost of taking waste to landfill has gone up over 10-fold. and also an environmental and climate crisis. We know that organic waste that ends up in landfill not only is taking up space, is costing money to get there, but it's also a direct contributor to the climate crisis in terms of the gases that it produces when it breaks down in an environment like that. So there's a hell of a lot of reasons why we need to be thinking about how we reduce waste to landfill, and it seems like we're all in furious agreement on that. I think whenever decisions are presented as a binary, that you either are doing the stick or you're doing education, I say, well, why not both? Why not do something, well, not the stick, but why not both? Why not look at all options that we have on the table to address this crisis? We know from the evidence, both from our own council in our own trial and from other councils, multiple councils who have already implemented fortnightly rubbish, we know that this works. It's a tried and tested method of reducing waste to landfill. But I wholeheartedly agree that on its own, it's not going to be enough. Both from those reasons that Councillor Bolton spoke about the upstream corporate change that needs to come in terms of how much waste is created, but also because there is a question about education, a question about supporting people to make different choices. And I don't think it's an either or, and this motion reflects that. It talks about looking at other options for education, other options for how we can support people who, for whatever reason, aren't currently using FOGO or aren't using it as much as they could. And I believe that there's a lot of people with more education and support who will be able to divert that waste. But we know, unfortunately, that education on its own is not going to be enough to meet the scale of this crisis. So I think it's incumbent upon us as elected representatives to do everything that we possibly can to meet this crisis, because as we've heard, if we don't, we're going to end up sending masses of waste to be incinerated, which I'm also going to hazard a guess is something that the vast majority of people here are not in support of either. So we need to do everything we possibly can to meet this crisis, and I agree with what's been said before that we can't have a one-size-all approach. Our community isn't one-size-all. We're incredibly diverse. It's in our motto. But this motion reflects the diversity in our community. That's why we have these concessions, because a one-size approach is never going to work for everybody. But I think this is a step in the right direction, and it's going to be one step of many, many steps that we have to take.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Theodosis, you're speaking against.
A lot of what I think has already been said, so I won't touch on everything in a lot of detail. I absolutely support initiatives that reduce landfill and encouraging the use of FOGO and recycling bins, but something that I will not support and something that I cannot support is the reduction of one of our core council services that we provide to residents. Services that residents rely on, that vulnerable residents, big families who use nappies, particularly up in the north and in my ward of Westbreen. I've had a lot of feedback from residents, and I am listening to those concerns around public health, vermin, odours, and also concerns around the way that the consultation was conducted. And all of those concerns are very valid, and for those reasons, I cannot support this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Theodosis. Councillor Pulford, did you speak or would you like to speak? And Councillor Bolton, I believe you have the right of reply.
Okay, firstly, I'd like to say everyone has raised totally legitimate issues. I've got no query, and people have raised all sorts of issues that they might have in terms of, you know, a potential shift to fortnightly waste, and also in terms of councillors who've put a different argument. And I think councillors in the north, I've had engagement with people about the trial, particularly in Hadfield, and I've met with people with a range of different viewpoints about the shift to fortnightly waste. One thing which might seem remote is that Sydney is projected to run out of landfill in 2030, and they're dealing with that by shipping their waste and all their shit out to parks in rural New South Wales for waste incinerators. And I think And I know I'm not saying that people who are opposed to the switch to fortnightly waste are not concerned about landfill issue. I'm not making that argument at all. But I do think that we do have to think about this issue in particular. I felt, and I feel that the implementation of this does need to be delayed. I don't think council should be contacting people about bin sizes for fortnightly waste until next year, after hopefully the council workers have won a good agreement and good wage rise, and so there won't be industrial action. I don't think the two things should be happening at the same time. And if that means the implementation needs to be delayed beyond the 1st of July, so be it. Because I think we shouldn't be rushing this. I know that makes it hard for staff, but there is, I think we need to, I think we have to delay the implementation until next year.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton.
The other thing is that the focus on the green waste, that's the thing, regardless of which option gets up tonight, I think there has to be a focus on the green waste, because that was what was absent out of the resolution of why people aren't using it, and then addressing how to help people use the green waste bin.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton.
That's it.
So I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour of Councillor Bolton's amended motion? Against? And I'll declare that carried. I was waiting for somebody to ask for a division. No. 7.2, Central Coburg Updated Framework Plan and Site A1 Expressions of Interest Process. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Irvin, and a seconder, Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. So this is an item that is just looking at endorsing the updated framework plan. So this will guide how we develop Central Coburg over the coming decades. And it's quite an exciting piece of work. We've been really, it's been a long-standing goal of council to develop this land and turn it from, surface level car parks into a place for people to live, to work, to play, and to create. And so we undertook extensive community consultation at the end of last year, and this updated plan really reflects what we've heard from the community and further develops what we're doing. So it's a really exciting piece of work. There's also development standards that we've developed alongside this. So this was something that we heard really strongly from the community, that they don't want this area to turn into somewhere like Docklands or somewhere quite soulless. And so they really wanted to have strong development standards that guide what the streets are like, what the interface between the buildings and the street is like, and things like that. The other element of this relates to a site that is next to our future Coburg Library, which is called Site A1. And this just starts the process of an open expression of interest to invite organisations to put forward ideas for developing this site. And so I guess there'll be further information coming out about this, but that this report essentially sort of starts that process off. And yes, I think that's really everything. It's really exciting work. It's taken us a long time to get to this point, and I know that as a councillor group, we're really excited to see what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Iwasaki, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I think that was actually almost everything. Thank you to the officers for really putting the work on this into this report, and to Mayor Abood and Councillor Irvin for also being in the committee for Central Coburg and helping to get a lot of these concepts to really find an optimal solution that creates a really livable plan for this area. And looking forward to what comes next.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Is there a councillor who would like to speak against this motion? What's your amendment?
Now, it gets circulated. It's about It's about adding an extra point.
Yep, it has
Yeah.
been circulated, so let me just find out whether that's amenable to the mover and seconder. Okay, so that's incorporated. Councillor Bolton, would you like to speak to the motion now that your amendment's been incorporated?
Well, I will speak to the motion, but I won't be supporting the motion. I did want to get the amendment in, though. And my reason for not supporting this motion is that this is predicated on selling a site called A1. Now, for people who don't know, the council owns a lot of land in central Coburg, including all the car parks, or not all the car parks. Woolworths owns one of the car parks. But I am really, in principle, against the sale of council land. So I won't be supporting this. And I know that the proposal for this site of A1, which would be beside the proposal for the new library and opposite the Greek church, Orthodox church, they talk about it having community uses and affordable creative spaces, etc. But this is going to be sold at market rates. I can't see how this will be affordable spaces for the community. So I am going to vote against selling off of land, because in reality that's what this proposal is all about.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Is there a councillor who would like to speak in support? Councillor Svensson.
I agree that we need to be incredibly careful whenever the prospect of selling off publicly owned land assets comes about. I mean, we were seeing the consequences in our cost of living crisis of decades and decades of sell-offs of public infrastructure. The good thing about this motion is it doesn't lock us into anything. What it's doing is sending out for an expression of interest process to see if there's organisations in the community who think they could do a good job running this site and developing this site. What we know is the area that council owns in central Coburg is largely underdeveloped car parks. But unfortunately, without significant investment from state and or federal, we lack the money to develop those areas on our own. So we're stuck in a tricky position of we need other people to come along and contribute to this vision that we really want to implement for our community. So this is one way of testing out who's in the community who might want to contribute to that vision. And if we only have crappy responses back that don't deliver for our community, then I'll vote against. But I think it's worthwhile seeing what's out there, worthwhile testing out these opportunities, because I think Central Coburg deserves better. And we've got a really amazing vision for Central Coburg, and hoping that this can be a step along the way.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Is there a councillor that would like to speak against? Or any other councillors who would like to speak in support? I just want to mention that this Central Coburg updated framework plan is quite remarkable. We're in a unique position because some other LGAs, local government, is it authorities? Anyway, whatever LGA stands for, should probably know that. Other council areas are facing a scenario where the state government has asked them to provide more housing. And in our case, we've been asked to provide 69,000 more houses in our activity centre that runs from Brunswick to Coburg. And Brunswick's had a fair bit done already, so that's probably pointing to Coburg. Now, we've got a unique scenario where we have agency of quite a lot of the land, so we can actually determine what the whole thing might look like if indeed there are developers who do want to build something of quality on those bits of land. As opposed to other neighbourhoods where the change is being foisted upon them and 20 stories or whatever else is just being thrown in the mix without much consultation. Central Coburg, the council's been looking at Central Coburg for probably two decades, and so far not much has been done. And since the level crossing removal project delivered the new station at Coburg, the council has resolved to create, after consultation with the community who thinks it's a good idea, the new library and the piazza. And I think that considering the whole precinct as a whole, with the station, then the library and the piazza as kind of the catalyst projects for all of this, potentially we could see a really amazing town centre. I think that it will take the pressure off the Brunswick Centre, and I think it will give people a better option than going up to Campbellfield, commonly known as Camberfield. And I think that the officers and councillors who've been involved in tweaking the dials on this have done a fairly good job of responding to what the community has said is a priority. And an important part of that, and Councillor Irvin touched on this when she spoke initially as the mover, is the heart and soul of what's at Coburg. You know, many times people have talked to me about people smoking in the mall, and I've said, I'll never say that people shouldn't smoke in the mall, because if they're not smoking in the mall, they're not in the mall. And I think that between that and Schoolhouse Studios and various other things that happen in central Coburg, I think that the council has understood and reflected the deep cultural mix that exists down there. And what I'm hoping with this Site A1 Expressions of Interest piece of the Central Coburg framework is that we do see some applications back that show us an opportunity for something really amazing that fits well. So I'm supporting the motion and grateful for the work. Are there other councillors that would like to speak? So I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Theodosis? Yeah. Against? Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Would you like... Yeah, of course. So if Councillor Bolton's vote against could be recorded, I declare that carried. Thank you. I'll now move to 7.3, the Places for People Plan 2026. Councillor Davidson?
I'd like to move this report with an amendment which I believe has been circulated.
Yep. And Councillor Yildiz, you're seconding? Would you like to speak, Councillor
Yes, please.
Davidson?
Thanks. So the amendment is as follows: to change page 27 for the Places for People plan to identify the Pascoe Road precinct in Glenroy as a high priority project and provide a report back to Council by December 2026 with recommendations for public realm improvements to the pedestrian areas of Pascoe Road in Glenroy. This additional point will, thank you Councillor Yildiz for seconding, this additional point will strengthen the plan by ensuring a key local centre in my ward is properly recognised. Pascoe Road in Glenroy is one of the most important activity centres in the northern part of Merri-bek. It is a major strip that services thousands of residents, supports local traders and functions as a key community hub. Pascoe Road requires a more coordinated and strategic investment in its public realm. This amendment strengthens the plan by ensuring that Pascoe Road is explicitly prioritised for detailed investigation and further improvement planning. It ensures that Council provides a clear pathway for design work and investment and recommendations to come back within a defined timeframe. Importantly, the amendment reflects the broader principle of equity across the municipality. If we're serious about delivering high-quality public spaces in our Northern Activity Centre, this must be given the same level of attention and prioritised as those in other parts of Merri-bek. This is a practical and targeted accountable amendment that ensures Glenroy is not left behind in future public realm planning. The Places for People plan is a sound and solid framework and provides an important long-term framework to grow and guide how Council invests and improves our public spaces, activity centres, shopping strips across Merri-bek. The plan focuses on the priorities of our community and that our community have consistently raised and enables us to support local businesses in making our streets safer for all users and strengthens our community connection. And I'd really like to thank the council officers who have put so much deep thought and time into preparing this Places for People plan. It's a framework that's really going to provide coordinated and strategic improvements for so many areas across Merri-bek, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those eventuate.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Yildiz?
Quickly, I think it's a wake-up call to the state government to acknowledge the challenges, and I want to thank the councillor for putting this forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there a councillor who would... Councillor Bolton?
I'm glad Councillor Davidson has moved this amendment. I think I really don't know what you can do because the Glenroy shopping centre has basically a highway going through the middle of it because that's really what Pascoe Vale Road is like, although semi-trailers have and that sort of heavy vehicles have been banned or, well before I moved to the area, and that, thankfully, it doesn't happen. But it's still like a major highway through the middle. But one thing that did improve things is when the level crossing removal happened, the new station happened, because it is a little grassy bit in front of the station, it has become a hangout space for a lot of people. And that has really improved things because nothing like that existed before. That little Morgan Court has never really played that kind of role. It's never really worked, a Morgan Court. But there is a real need for working out a way of making it easier for people to get across Pascoe Vale Road, to get to and from the station and the shops and so forth. And certainly I think the resident who spoke earlier tonight about street lighting, I mean, there is a need for street lighting because people who live in West Glenroy have to cross Pascoe Vale Road from the train station. It's very dark at night time at that particular pedestrian crossing where the trains masquerading as buses stop for bus replacement. So anyway, I don't know what you could do in that area, but any improvements would be fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? Councillor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. I won't say too much about this because I think that Councillor Davidson gave a really good summary of this really exciting kind of inaugural policy of ours. But I do just want to say something I really like about this is flicking through and seeing the places that are so important to our community. And I think that there are some amazing examples that we've done recently, Ballan Place, Wilson Avenue, Glenroy Hub. We're seeing, I think, a really high level of placemaking and urban realm and design in Merri-bek, and I think that all of our officers and the whole organisation should be so proud of it because I think even objectively looking around all of Melbourne, we're really doing so well in this, and I'm excited to have this framework to guide how we do this work in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Now I can move to 7.4, the Children and Young People Family Strategy. And Councillor Irvin, you're ready to move? Oh, sorry, Svensson. It's like I forgot your name. A seconder? I saw Councillor Iwasaki. Sorry, Councillor Theoresis.
So this is about adopting our children, young people and family strategy for the next 4 years. So a little while ago when we opened this up for consultation, I spoke about this strategy and how it sets out the principles, the things that we aim towards when we're doing all of the work that we do, which is quite a lot of work, with the whole of the age span from before people are born all the way to young adulthood and beyond, with children, young people and families. And there's 3 priority areas that we really work on in this strategy, which are health and wellbeing, connection and inclusion, and learning and thriving. And these principles will really underpin, well, they already underpin, but will continue to underpin all of the work that we do. It's been a really fantastic process seeing the consultation on this strategy. There were over 4,000 pieces of individual feedback that came through on this strategy. So people really care about the services that we provide to the community, which is fantastic. Also love, Councillor Irvin spoke to this when we went out to consultation, but some of that feedback was even from little kids themselves, which is fantastic because often children's voices terribly are left out of creating services for children. So I think it's fantastic that we're really working hard to ensure that children and young people's voices are not only included but are centred and prioritised in the work that we do. Some of the work that we're doing that will be strengthened by this strategy at the moment that is about hearing from young people is we're currently putting together a sort of vision for what free spaces, that we call them third spaces, for young people could look like throughout Merri-bek. At the moment, we're going out and surveying young people and getting their feedback about what do they want, because it's all well and good for people like us to decide what those spaces might look like, but we're getting some really fantastic engagement about what people want, and we're hearing fantastically about how much young people actually love our libraries, which is great, and how they want more spaces like our libraries where they can go and hang out in unstructured, safe spaces, particularly ones that their families are happy for them to go to. So through this work, we're going to be looking at how council can support more spaces like that for young people throughout Merri-bek, particularly in the north, because we know young people in the north are crying out. We've got fantastic groups like Faulkner's Future, who are a group of young people who've been advocating very directly to council for more services for young people in the north, and this strategy will really underpin the work that we're going to continue to do. But you can keep your eyes peeled, because this strategy comes with an action plan that will be coming out later, where you can see all of the nitty-gritty about what we're going to do to support young people.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. I'm ready for you to sell me a car. Councillor Iwasaki.
Yeah, I'll just speak briefly. Thank you to the officers for this report and the work that they've done. Councillor Svensson and I both work with young people who are in mental health spaces, and it's really great to see, what we can do as a council, as a city, for our community and for the future of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? Nope. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously, and move on to the 7.5 Library Services Strategy. Councillor Irvin and Councillor Bolton. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is adopting our library services strategy for the next 5 years. And this has been just a little while in the making. We did some initial engagement, earlier about how people use the library, and then that informed the draft strategy. And then now, after some further consultation, this is the final version. And I think, as I've sort of said several times before, to me, libraries are really magical places. I love the library. I think it's such a core service that we offer, and it's such an amazing, safe space that's also free. And I think in this day and age, these sorts of spaces are just rarer and rarer. As Councillor Svensson spoke about earlier, it's a place where young people like to go. It's so important for families. There are events like reading times, and obviously just a huge amount of resources, both in terms of books and then also digital resources that people can access. So libraries are very special and very dear to my heart. And it's really great to see in this strategy a bit of a look back on the previous strategy and the impact that has had. We've seen huge increases in people visiting our libraries. We've seen increases in our loans and active borrowers, which I think just speaks to how we're adapting our collections to meet the needs of our community. And this strategy sets out how we will continue to do that, including with some exciting initiatives like having a library of things. So this is moving from a library being just sort of books and media towards being able to borrow different items. At the moment, you can actually borrow things like induction stoves and thermal cameras to improve the energy efficiency of your house, and these sorts of things will be expanded. There'll also be, an annual event to celebrate libraries, which I'm really excited to learn more about, and increasing our range of programs that we offer. So I would certainly recommend having a look through the strategy and seeing what will change and what exciting things are going to be happening over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Bolton.
As well as all of the things that Councillor Irvin mentioned, libraries are playing a very broad role in society at the moment, so that as all of these jobs have been slashed in the public service and also in private corporations, that work goes somewhere and it goes to libraries. So people have to get help from library staff to fill in Centrelink forms, fill in tax forms, fill in this, that and the other form. And it's where people go to access computers, which in this day and age is an essential of life. Not everyone can afford a computer or can maintain a computer in their house. So they play a very critical role. And once upon a time, I think it was the mid-90s, the state government used to provide around 70% of the funding for libraries, and over time that's reversed to councils paying the overwhelming majority of the costs of providing libraries. So that was a Kennett cut all of those years ago in the 90s. And it's kept in that same trajectory of less and less money from state government and more funding being provided by council. So I'll just leave it there. I mean, I think they are a hive of activity for anyone who hasn't been to a library of late.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. And move on to 7.6, the carbon offsets update. Councillor Iwasaki and Councillor Miles to second. Councillor Iwasaki, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. In reviewing our carbon offsets program, particularly with concerns by Councillor Bolton, I note myself that I have a mixed view on carbon offsets. Here we revisit our carbon offsets policy and seek to redirect some of the balance to the Council's corporate carbon reduction budget for supporting direct emissions reductions projects. And I note that there are some cases that I think are effective in terms of offsets, but I also understand that there are some very poor examples. Our council in the past has done a proper job, I think, of selecting those transparently high-quality choices, but I can also see the relevance of direct action on council projects. So I support diverting of funding to things such as council-owned solar generation, which can assist with reducing emissions directly, with our goal of 80 to 100% reduction in council emissions by 2030. So it's fair enough that we're not carbon neutral by accounting for others to do the work for us. We won't really be carbon neutral until we transition our fleet and pool heating off of diesel and natural gas, which notably costs a few $1 million more than $60,000. To that end, it's also relevant that continued lobbying by the coal and gas industries and our state and federal governments continue to delay decarbonization of our entire electrical grid and forces councils to pay for mitigating extreme heat and flooding in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Iwasaki. Councillor Miles?
Yeah, I think when this came to council last year, I think my concerns were, and some of the residents, was that seeing ratepayers' money go overseas, and I think what they wanted to see, I mean, they were all for decarbonising and work towards reducing our carbon as Merri-bek as a city. But their concerns were seeing the money go overseas. So I'm really glad to see, I mean, it's $60,000, but that's $60,000 that will stay into the Merri-bek economy or the wider Victorian economy. So, I mean, we mightn't have a certificate saying that we're carbon neutral, but I think we're actually moving in the right direction by keeping the money into Victoria, and we're also working on reducing our carbon emissions.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? Councillor Bolton?
Yes, I'd like to speak. I was really pleased that this was the recommendation of council officers not to keep buying carbon offsets and instead use the balance of the budget to fund direct emissions reduction projects, because I've never agreed with carbon offsets even when they first came in. It was a very market-based scheme around the world, and it was basically meant that a lot of companies and governments declared themselves carbon neutral and green when they weren't, because they were buying these carbon offsets. I think it is a much better approach if the council is honest with the community about how far we've got in the journey towards zero carbon emissions. And I note that most of the climate movement now does not talk about climate offsets. They've been totally discredited. And The whole carbon neutrality thing is all based on carbon offsets. The movement has moved to focusing on zero emissions, and I think that's what council needs to be focused on, is zero emissions and not this fake carbon neutrality. And so I'm pleased that the council officers have got this recommendation here tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. And move to 7.7, rates hardship policy. Councillor Irvin and Councillor Svensson. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is us adopting the final version of our rates hardship policy. So this is a bit of a change to the former policy, which combined rates and other non-rates hardship in one. And I think probably due to changes at the state government level, this has now been separated out, and this is kind of a standalone policy, and there'll be a separate policy for non-rates hardship provisions that will come out, later. Essentially, this is looking at looking at the cases where people are unable to pay rates due to hardship, whether that's financial or other hardship, and the measures that we can take to support people through that. And yes, it's been out for public consultation, and thank you to the people who gave feedback on this. And yes, this is our final policy on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Svensson. Thank you. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Bolton, are you voting? So I declare that carried unanimously. Thanks. 7.8, the financial management report for the period ended 30th of April 2026. Thank you, Councillor Irvin. And Councillor Svensson to second. Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. This is a regular report that comes to our council meetings, and it just covers off sort of the status of our finances at a point in time, in this case, the end of April. So this looks at our revenue, our spending, our capital works program, and other things besides. And it does show that, overall we're tracking pretty well compared to what our budget was. We do have, an underspend, I guess, on our capital expenditure, which is just due to, I guess, often with these projects, there are kind of delays potentially caused by, internal resourcing, or maybe it's delays in third-party approvals. But either way, we have, over the last couple of years, kind of had a bit of a struggle to spend our entire capital works budget in the year, which means that we do carry projects over to following years, which is something that we're actually addressing in this year's budget as well. But it is worth reading if you're interested in kind of the inner workings of council, the projects that we're delivering, and what's happening. Thank you.
And just because maybe it's late or everybody's getting my cold, we just need to state the officer recommendation so we know what it is that we're moving as well. So for the sake of anybody who didn't catch it, Councillor Irvin has moved that council notes the financial management report for the period ending 30th of April 2026 included as attachment 1 to this report. And Councillor Svensson has seconded it. Would you like to speak, Councillor Svensson? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. And I'll move to 7.9, the governance report. Councillor Svensson. And a second, Councillor Miles.
This is another one of our regular reports. It's got things in like our briefings. Who was there?
You're moving the.
I'm moving the officer's recommendation.
Thank you so much.
One of our regular reports that comes through. You can see what we've been doing, who's come to our briefings, what we've spoken about, and what happens in our advisory committees, which I think is the most interesting part of this report today, because I had the exciting opportunity while Councillor Iwasaki was otherwise busy. I got to jump into the Arts Committee meeting, and they had the excellent but tricky decision before them about discussing what art we're going to purchase for our collection. So you can see what the recommendation was. If you scroll through the report, you can actually see photos of the pieces that have been, been recommended by the advisory committee. It's a fantastic collection of art from local artists, really diverse collection there. And it was an absolute pleasure to be involved in that conversation. And some really important pieces that will be, if this is passed, coming into our collection. There's a donation of a very unique art piece that is commemorating Michelle Guglielmo, who is a much-loved staff member at Merri-bek Council. And there's also multiple pieces from Noel Coonahan, it's late in the night, who our very own gallery was named after. So there's some really important pieces coming into the collection, and I'd encourage anybody who's interested to have a scroll through and have a look at them.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Councillor Miles, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, what I really enjoyed going through this month's agenda was actually looking at some of the art pieces. There's some really amazing artwork in there. I think it's on page 455. Textiles in Gaza was actually the one that sort of caught my attention the most. It's an amazing piece of art. If anyone has not seen it, I'd recommend all other councillors and people in the public to have a look at it, because it's a very touching piece of artwork.
Thank you. Councillor Bolton.
I actually want to ask a question, because I was expecting the First Nations Advisory Committee minutes to have been included as part of the governance report. And apologies, I didn't get to raise this earlier because it was one of the reports I read quite late in the piece.
That's okay.
Otherwise, I would have raised it.
Yep.
And because there was a recommendation in the last First Nations Advisory Committee to come to council, and we were expecting it would be this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bolton, through you, Chair. We'll follow that up and see where those minutes are. It's coming this month. It's coming next month.
It's coming to the next meeting, Councillor Bolton.
Okay, because it's one of the recommendations was in relation to the budget.
Right.
So it would be good if the recommendation relating to the budget could be circulated to all councillors. Even though the minutes haven't been adopted by council.
Yes. Thank you. I think it's probably appropriate for you to talk about it if you want to in the context of what is included generally in the governance report would be something like, but I'll just leave that with you. And it will come back in the next month.
Well, I don't have the wording right in front of me because I was expecting it to be, the minutes to be in the report. But basically it was a recommendation which echoes what was moved in the budget process last year for 25-26. And this is a recommendation for council to use any surplus to help fund a temporary structure on the Ballot Maroop site, because if that that temporary structure does get funding from the state government, it's for a raw building without a toilet or any of the other things that you need to make it usable. And that was a request we had last year, and we didn't allocate that money, and so this is a recommendation to council from the group, but I don't have the wording with me right now.
Yep. And so just for the sake of speaking to 7.9, the motion about the governance report, and to clarify that this is the kind of place that all of the minutes of the meetings of all of the different advisory groups and all of our briefings and everything is listed, and that in the future it will include the minutes that Councillor Bolton are talking about from the First Nations Advisory Group, but also that to note that I think that our council has surely got the biggest collection of Noel Coonahan artwork in the whole world here, and that a lot of those works have been donated, and that it's also a place, this governance report, to find responses to questions taken on notice, and that's what's also been included here. And so then I think I'll stop talking. and maybe put it to the vote, unless anybody had anything else they'd like to mention. Councillor Iwasaki.
Well, as you know, some councillors enjoy going through the photos. Please come down to the gallery. We have been attending the openings. Always Councillor Abood and I have been going for the last, and Councillor Irvin. And that gives me the opportunity to make the most fun Instagram posts where I get to actually post the pictures of the artwork. So I don't have the next date of the openings, but the August 1st, thank you, Councillor Irvin. The galleries are open Wednesday to Saturday, 12 to 5 p.m. and Sundays, 1 to 5 p.m.
Thank you so much. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously and move to the notices of motion. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you.
And Councillor Miles, you're seconding? Yes, very good.
Great, thanks. I really appreciate that, Councillor Miles. I know Councillor Miles does a lot of work within Glenroy as well, and our wards border each other, so this is highly relevant for both of us. So the notice of motion is as read on the screen, and it looks to revitalise Glenroy Activity Centre, specifically along Pascoe Road. So the Glenroy Activity Centre is one of Merri-bek's 3 major activity centres. It's a key destination for residents, traders and visitors, and it's widely acknowledged that it is in significant need of renewal in the short, medium and long term. This motion is about ensuring that we take a coordinated and practical and proactive approach to improving the heart of Glenroy. And I really like to acknowledge what we're hearing from the community. So that includes traders and residents who regularly raise concerns about the appearance of the precinct, including issues of cleanliness, ageing infrastructure, graffiti, and a general sense that the centre is tired and not reflecting the pride of the local community. These concerns are compounded by broader perceptions of safety and antisocial behaviour that's being experienced across many metropolitan activity centres. So many of these challenges are complex and involve multiple agencies, including working alongside with the state government, which we do regularly and will continue to do so. But this notice of motion seeks to do 3 things. Firstly, it seeks to revitalise and beautify Pascoe Road within the Glenroy Activity Centre, including improvements to public amenity, perceptions of safety, community pride and supporting local economic activity, as well as maintaining an attractive streetscape which directly supports traders and encourages people to shop locally and spend time in the area. Secondly, it also acknowledges the real and ongoing concerns that exist within the community and among traders regarding safety, amenity and cleanliness. Importantly, it recognises that meaningful improvement cannot be achieved by council alone and requires general collaboration between council, the state government, traders, property owners and other key stakeholders like Coles. And also the state government, given that it is a state government managed road. Thirdly, it requests that council officers undertake a detailed audit of Pascoe Road and the activity centre. This audit will identify priority maintenance, beautification and safety activation opportunities and includes practical and visible improvements such as tree planting in identified tricky tree spots and repairing damaged bollards, pedestrian railings, removing graffiti and undertaking pressure cleaning when required. It ensures that we look at Pascoe through a lens of crime prevention through environmental design, and those principles are there to enable future safety and passive surveillance within the area. It's not just about appearance, it's about function, safety and our community taking pride in where we live and where we work and where we shop. I'd like to thank the community for their continued advocacy for Glenroy. It's a place very dear to my heart that I've grown up in, and I'd like to thank council officers and also councillors who have supported the Glenroy Activity Centre through many meetings with local residents as well.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson. Councillor Miles?
Yeah, I'd thank Councillor Davidson for her work on this, because the Activity Centre in Glenroy is an absolutely amazing space, and it's going to turn into something really beautiful in the future, and we just need to all start working together, which is what we're trying to do here. The thing that you mentioned that I really liked about it is the passive surveillance. I'm a big fan of passive surveillance. The more people that we'll have in the Glenroy active areas on Pascoe Vale Road, the safer it's going to feel for people to go there. They're going to spend their money. They're going to enjoy the area, and the whole area is just going to it's going to become an absolute success. And so many people want to go there, and they say to me they just don't feel comfortable. But once we sort of start doing this sort of work, things are going to get really great for that space.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? Councillor Bolton.
Like with what is it, people in places or places for people plan, I totally agree with this proposal. I think it would be a really great thing to do, especially if we can think of the practical things to do. But I must admit, I spend a lot of time in Glenroy, all hours of the day and night, and I never feel unsafe in that shopping centre. I sort of do feel that, you know, there's always a certain proportion of crime around because, you know, because of the size of the population. But I think we do need to be careful about emphasising crime too much, because then sometimes think it's, you know, maybe worse than it is, worse than it actually is. I mean, I think the things like the, you know, the organised crime is a separate matter to on the street crime. And I mean, I know, you know, I've had the tobacco shop near me. I slept through the whole thing, you know, firebombed twice and so forth. But so, you know, I've been close to close to that sort of crime. But in terms of general crime on the street, I really don't feel it's as bad. I mean, sure, if you're a victim of crime, you know, it's obviously going to be devastating. But I think I do feel sometimes there's a bit of exaggeration about crime. Yeah, I certainly never feel unsafe at all in Glenroy. I don't, you know, around the train station and all of those Coles and all of that, I never feel unsafe at all. I think it's a very friendly place. What we need is a place that people feel like hanging out, and maybe somehow we could extend down Post Office Place a bit of a hangout kind of scenario for people in Glenroy, because that's what doesn't exist because of the highway through the centre.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak? I'll put Councillor Davidson's motion to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. So now we can move to notices of rescission, and I don't think there are any, so I'll move to foreshadowed items. Councillors, are there any items that you would like to foreshadow? Nope. Urgent business, none. I declare the meeting closed, and thank you all at 8. Oh my God, I just can't read that clock. 8:52. Thank you so